Welcome to all of you. The series of conversations and explorations on how to include every fabulous thing that you have to offer into your life and work. If you are a multi-passionate, creative, entrepreneurial woman seeking harmony, adventure, meaning, purpose, and enjoyment and flow in life, then this is the right place for you to be. I'm your host, Joyce van der Lely from the Fierce Female Force, and today my guest is Jillian Rothschild Scholar. She is a Feng Shui expert. Welcome, Jillian.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to join you.
I am really interested in what we're going to discuss in this conversation. So yes. Before we started the recording, we talked a little bit about directions, and we both adjusted a little bit so that it would be more beneficial. Can you, and I think most people know that Feng Shui is about the beneficial directions for every person in life, but let's just explain that a little bit for those that are quite new to Feng Shui.
Sure. We can talk a little bit about what Feng Shui is and how we can use it, and sort of give you a basic explanation of Feng Shui. To me, Feng Shui is a support system for our lives.
Yeah.
Feng Shui is an ancient Chinese art and science that allows us to create harmony and balance within any environment. We've heard that before. Really, when we create harmony and balance, it lends support to our lives. And when our lives have support through our environment, then it's much easier for us to achieve the things we want in life, like well-being and abundance, love and happiness. So really what that means for you is that you have the ability to control how supportive your environment is in creating the life that you want. And that's one of the things that I work with my clients on, is identifying their goals and helping them bring balance and harmony to their space so that they can use the space in a way that's more effective for them.
So it depends on what you want to achieve, in which direction you would operate, you would do something or position something. Is that correct?
That is one system. Yes, absolutely. So that there is a system called 8 mansions, which is sometimes called 8 houses, or the life house Feng Shui. And it essentially says that each person has 4 favorable or good directions and 4 bad directions or unfavorable directions. And which ones you're using at a specific time can impact your outcome.
Yeah. So yeah, wow, that's really interesting. And I read a little bit on Feng Shui many years ago. Somehow I'm aware, but I don't always take the reference to my directions. How important do you think it is to actually include it consciously into your life and into your work?
To me, it's integral, right? This particular system, this 8 mansion system, is absolutely non-negotiable in my practice. So especially if someone is contacting me with an emergency, something that seems emergent in their life, their business is falling apart, or their relationships are terrible, or there's a real major health issue, this is always the very first thing that I look at. Just in the interior, of course, I'm going to look at the exterior, but inside, if someone is sleeping in one of their negative directions and it triggers bad health or just overall disaster, bankruptcy, major failures, they can't seem to get over any obstacles, I want to know what they're sleeping on, what kind of direction they're sleeping in, what their home office looks like, what they're facing in their home office. I think it's crucial. Actually, my teacher, our lineage is through Grandmaster Yap Cheng Hai. And my teacher told me that he has been famously said, if you meet a homeless person and you give that homeless person a good direction to sleep in, you can potentially help change their life. You might not be able to make money fall out of the sky. That's not real. But maybe that person could get some extra help. Someone could offer them a job, and it could shift things dramatically for them just by giving them a good direction to sleep in.
So to me, just let me know if I'm wrong, but to me, it feels like these are energies that are in the air, in the universe, that are beneficial to you and or could potentially be harmful to you. So it's being in tune with the energies around you, and that, because we're all one ball of energy, aren't we?
We are all energy all the time. We are all chi or energy. And Feng Shui essentially relies on the principle that vibration precedes manifestation. So if we can get into good vibrational alignment with our physical environment, then we can relax. We have a greater sense of peace. We're not worried about things all the time. And it's just easier to attract things. We can think more clearly. I mean, if you're not sleeping, bless you, it's hard to take on the world when you're not sleeping.
Yeah.
When you get in a good night's sleep, you feel like you can do whatever is in front of you. But if you can't sleep or you haven't slept in ages, then your health is no good and you're cranky and ornery, and it's just not a nice way to live. This is about Feng Shui is really about the long view. Yes, you may have an emergency that needs to be fixed. Yeah, we need to work on that. But this is about creating a long, smooth path of life so that you can thrive over time.
Yeah, yeah. And so
beautiful, really.
I know. It sounds, it sounds like people that practice Feng Shui, they are more in tune with their environment. Yeah. More aware. It's an awareness as well, I feel. Right?
Absolutely. Awareness. Typically people who work in Feng Shui, I think, often have their own sort of sense of intuition and can be very grounded, because really we're talking about the earth realm. We live on the earth. Our houses are put on the ground. So there's a concept in Feng Shui called the cosmic trinity. And this is the sum of a person's energy potential. And a component of that is heaven. So there's heaven, it's called heaven luck. Now we're not talking about lucky rabbit's foot kind of luck. We're talking, or, four-leaf clover kind of luck. This is energy. So this is heaven luck, and then earth luck and human luck. So heaven luck is something that is not within our consciousness. It's just available to us at our birth. Yeah. And it's before we can even make conscious choices. It just comes to us as part of when we were born. Earth luck is really what we address on the Feng Shui level. That's what I can help you in that component. But the human luck is you. So you still have free will. You still have choices that you get to make. And within those choices, you have options about how you want to see your life go. So the Feng Shui is just one piece. You still have a huge component as a person. Yeah.
So with this heaven luck, does that mean that if you're born with less heavenly luck, then you will not be able to reach a certain point? Or, because I mean, that's obviously what some people will think. It's like, oh, well, I wasn't born lucky.
The truth is, most of us are not born lucky. We're just born into specific circumstance. Essentially, you're talking about, if you talk about 100% of a pie, heaven luck is 33%, earth luck is 33%, and human luck is 33%. So really, you get the opportunity and the potential to shift 2/3 of your experience. Some of it is just what you're born with. You were just born into the family you were born into. Your parents lived wherever they lived. Like that's not something within your control. But now as an adult, you have more opportunity to shift that and make changes, because you can make your own choices. And you can do it consciously with Feng Shui. If you could increase the outcome 2/3, that's more than if you're doing it just on a crapshoot.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's interesting.
I know. I want to talk about it more, but I just also in this first bit that we're talking about, I'm wondering what brought you to do this?
No problem. That's a great question. So actually, I was a little bit of a weird kid. Yeah. I was very into fighting my dad to get the crossword puzzle out of the newspaper so that I could turn it over and get to the horoscope, because he wanted the crossword and I wanted the horoscope, and I was like fighting with him because it was on the same page. And that was sort of my first clue that most kids were not checking out the horoscope. And then that sort of evolved into like looking at tarot cards and energy healing and like alternative herbs, and just, I was a little bit, and I was born in Dayton, Ohio, and that's not really the cosmopolitan center of all things alternative. And so I was definitely a little bit of a weird kid. And I moved my furniture around a lot in my room as a kid. I didn't know what I was doing at the time. I just like couldn't figure out how to settle my furniture.
It just felt good to do.
It just felt good. And I just was like, oh, I think I'll move my bed. But now I know why. I can look back and I can understand why I was trying to align with energy that was more supportive.
It's so funny. I used to do that too.
Funny, right? And so then, after I moved away and I went to college, I got introduced to Reiki energy. So I studied Reiki for a little bit, and I was reading all kinds of information, and I ended up with a Feng Shui book, and I would like read it and see if I could figure it out. And it just evolved into a sense of curiosity. And every time I moved, I would try to implement a little bit more. And there just came a point when we moved here to Phoenix where I needed help, because I was kind of overwhelmed by this new house and the things that were not going right in my life. And God bless my husband. He was like, whatever you want, honey, if it's going to make you happy, we'll just make you happy. So I called for help, and it was a great experience. I had a great consultant, and everything just started to click together. And after implementing some Feng Shui techniques that I didn't know about, because it's not all in a book, the penny dropped, and I got money, and my job got better. And I was like, if I can do this, anybody can do this. So I really started to invest in how I can use my experience and my knowledge to help someone else. And that was over a decade ago. And life's changed quite a bit since then. That's really how I got started. I got away from a corporate environment because I knew that wasn't serving me. I spent 20 years in customer service and college admissions. And over that time, like half of that time, I was studying Feng Shui and trying to figure things out and learning and sculpting my life. And now it's just clear to me that that corporate world is not where my heart is. My heart is really in serving people and helping them change their lives. That's how I did it.
And so, and then because you're a classically trained expert now in Feng Shui, so where did you find the right training for it?
It actually happened in a little bit of a path. I never think that Feng Shui is a light switch. It's more of a journey. And so I started in more Western Feng Shui, or black hat Tibetan Feng Shui. It's known as BTB. I started there with Western Feng Shui, and for me, I felt a real craving. It was like, that's the only way I can explain it. It was like a craving for more. I knew there was something more than just that perspective. And so I was introduced to a colleague, and she said, you should read this book. Okay, so I read this book, and it was lovely. And I was like, this author is great. I need to meet this author. And turns out this author turned out to be my private teacher for a year and a half. I did private mentoring with her in a classic lineage. And that was a real springboard for results that are meaningful, because for me, and this is not true for everybody, I just wanted to make sure that what I was doing wasn't superficial. And that it helped with the long term. So that was really my path. And every year, just simply because this is not my culture, I'm not born in Asia, I live in Phoenix, Arizona. I study something new every year, because this is like a vast ocean of knowledge, and there's always more to add and more to add and more to bring in.
There's always more.
There's always more. I know that I'm absolutely effective in what I can do right now. And if I can fine tune it a little bit by adding one more thing, that's something that I think makes me, I like to think that I make myself different and unique, because I'm taking all these methods and tools, and I'm learning all this, and I'm usually testing it on myself first, just to make sure I get it correct for the client, and putting it together for a customized experience, because your needs may be different than this person's needs. And I want to make sure that I'm getting it. It's like a couture experience. I want to get it right for that person versus what the shape is and what it looks like for this person. Then it becomes much more meaningful.
I love that, because so obviously you're a very curious person, constantly looking for where there is more and where you can go deeper and deeper and wider and higher and growing. But also that you help your clients individually, and that you recognize that everybody's situation, everybody is different. That there's no one way that fits all, and that is so relevant here, that we're talking on topics and subjects that are meaningful to multi-passionate people, because multi-passionate people, they are a mixture. Every single one is a different mixture of many beautiful layers, and And so nothing really is the same for everybody. And
Yeah.
I love this. So how can somebody start with Feng Shui?
I think it's really important to first identify your goals.
Mm-hmm.
Your goal may just be to stop the bleeding. Like, I've had people call with emergencies, health emergencies or financial emergencies. Is it an emergency? This is probably going on for a really long time and you didn't know how to fix it, right? So sometimes we have to stop the bleeding,
Mm-hmm.
and we have to figure out what's not working, get the bleeding to stop. That's a first assessment. I think it's first important to figure out what your goal is.
Mm-hmm.
Then, in my opinion, it's really important to identify what method you want to use, because that can help you understand what your journey is going to look like. If I practice classical feng shui and that does not resonate with you,
Mm-hmm.
then I'm not going to be the right practitioner. You may need somebody who is more of a designer, or more of maybe someone who practices in a different school or a different method. That's great. It's important that you really connect with that person, so that you can work together. If you are trying to do it on your own, which people do,
Mm-hmm.
I would say go to the bookstore or go to the library and thumb through some books and see what grabs your attention. I have the sort of belief that, like, you get what you need and what you can handle at the time.
Yeah.
So clients that I worked with a decade ago is a completely different kind of client than I'm going to be seeing today, because of what they need.
Yeah.
What my skill level was a decade ago is very different than it is today.
Yeah.
So that is potentially one way to start. And if that is too confusing, because I get this a lot where people go, I read 6 books and now I don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's time to call for help. It really is time to bring in a consultant and get some support, because for me, one of my gifts is objectivity. I can really look at the situation from outside and identify pretty quickly what direction, sort of the path of least resistance out is. But when you're in the thick of it, sometimes you just you can't see the forest through the trees.
Mm-hmm. So when does somebody typically reach out? Is it when they've tried to, for instance, somebody is trying to make it work in his work and life or in her work and life situation? Yeah. At one point, do you say, well, I tried my part, and maybe there's something in the direction of where my office is or where I'm working in, or the direction I'm sleeping? When do you feel like that could be a potential reason?
Usually there's something significant.
Mm-hmm.
Could be a financial issue. It could be a relationship issue. It could be a health issue. Those are usually the top 3. And there are 2 reasons that people use feng shui. They're either trying to fix an existing problem that they can't get out of.
Yeah.
And they're at the end of their rope. And now, after every other thing you've tried in the world, you're finally starting to look at your physical environment.
Mm-hmm.
So then it starts to feel like an emergency or something that's really dire. Or the other camp, if you will, is I really want to protect what I have. My life is good. I'm generally happy. I feel like things are going well for me. And I don't want to be fearful that the other shoe is going to drop. I want to make sure I'm covering all my bases.
Yeah.
Those are typically the 2 perspectives. So I think that there's a tipping point, one way or another. You're either so at the end of your rope, you're calling for help, or you're
preventative.
So you're like protecting, and you're so preventative that you think about the next thing that's going to happen, and you want to make sure that you're doing the right thing, and you don't have time. Like, sometimes I have clients that are like, listen, I just don't have time. You just tell me what to do and I will just do whatever. Okay.
Yeah. So you just mentioned earlier that you're a classical feng shui consultant.
Yes.
And you said that there are also designers. So what's the difference?
I think the difference is the sort of optics or the lens that person is coming to the table with. I'm not an architect.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to pretend that I can help you build a building. That's not my perspective.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the training I have. But if you need to get an architect, then go down that path, right? If you want to have an understanding of what the energy looks like and how it supports you, I can work with your architect.
Yeah.
That's okay. I'm not an interior designer.
Mm-hmm.
my job is to evaluate energy. We can talk about how to make things pretty, but it's your home, right? Yeah. I'm not here to make your house look like a Chinese antique store.
They sometimes really look cool though.
They sometimes look cool, but I'm not into like those little trinkets and stuff like that. I don't find that, like, if the money frog at your front door really worked, we would all have one. I mean,
yeah.
But my perspective is that is not an effective way long term to get good feng shui. So I think it's important that you know what your objective is, and then you can identify. It's a little bit like it's a little bit like hiring a personal assistant. You want to know what that person's skills are. If you have 3 things you want them to do and they can only do 2, then they might not be the right person for you. Maybe you can hire them to do 2 and hire somebody else to do something, a different part. So that's important in the different types of feng shui. There are many practitioners that do multiple modalities. Some people are real estate agents here in the United States who help you buy and find a property and go through that whole process. There are interior designers that also incorporate feng shui. There are practitioners who help with design, who can look at, hey, I'm going to build a new home from this building company. Can you look at the floor plan and tell me if this is going to be supportive feng shui?
Yeah.
That's one component of services. Sometimes there are people who don't want to have anything to do with design and are not interested in that. Some people do more psychology. Some people don't do all of the things that I do. They only work with the exterior, what's called landform. So everybody has their own sort of toolbox. Let's call it a toolbox.
Yeah.
Of what they're going to draw from. And I think that is what makes us all unique.
Yeah. Again, so not all feng shui consultants are the same. Again, yeah.
They're not all the same. First of all, they're not all the same. Even if they come from the same teacher.
Yeah.
Every person on this planet is singularly unique. The path I walked to get here is different than that person, even if we had the same teacher. So what I'm going to bring to the table is my life experience, my perspective, my experience with clients. Listen, I think that there's a difference between a practitioner who's practicing full time versus someone who took a weekend class and calls himself a master and has a day job. So I think that there is a difference in quality and the kind of experience you can expect.
So in a sense, you are an artist and you express your way of feng shui, and the other feng shui consultant is an artist and expresses their version, right? Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. It's a little bit like, I love that analogy, sort of like a chef, right? If you order chicken chow mein in Beijing, it's going to be very different than chicken chow mein that you get in San Francisco, than the chicken chow mein that you get in London. Even though it's the same dish, you think you're getting the same dish, it's going to have different flavor because it was created by a completely different person. Different environmental influences, different life experiences, different optics and lenses that they're using to cook that dish.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I like
beautiful?
That. Yeah, I know. So typically you work with people, they hire you to work with them. Is that usually in real life? So do you visit people and places?
I do. I can work remotely. I'm based in Phoenix, Arizona, but people fly me all over. I work worldwide. You just fly me out to your house and your business or whatever.
Sounds amazing.
I'm a jet setter.
Yeah.
We can do a lot remotely. The truth is, listen, I mean, now we have satellites and we have all kinds of pictures and we can do a lot that you could never do remotely. We can do quite a bit remotely. However, sometimes after I talk to clients, they just want to meet me. They just want to spend time with me. Because when I work with a client and I do a day rate, a whole like chunk of time, we're talking like 4+ hours with a client, we can do a lot. We can look at the space. We can spend some time. If it's an opportunity to move furniture, we can move furniture around together. We can do energy clearing. We can meditate together. I mean, there's so much more than just, yes, the directions are very important and the orientation is key. And some of that I can control, but some of it, as I mentioned before, is the human luck. So of course we're going to spend time getting to know each other. We're going to check each other's energy. We're going to make sure that if something feels off, we're going to address it right away whenever we can. And it's fun. Like, it's just,
I can imagine. Yeah.
It's, for me, I'm having a great time. And for the client, it's nice to know that this person is real. Like, I'm a real person, and you as a client are calling me with sometimes very vulnerable, sensitive challenges about growing a family, being infertile. God forbid there's been an affair or a betrayal or a financial collapse or a real health issue, or just there are some really sensitive things that are on your heart. And it can be really helpful to know that consultant is there for you beyond just the couple hours that they came to the house, or just whatever I ordered remotely on whatever you could book on someone's website. It's just not the kind of work that I do. I really like to build relationships. For me, how do I want to say this? I work with clients over time. I do not see Feng Shui as a one-time experience. We're really going on a journey. My entry point is helping you get started, but we work on changing things year to year. We look at charts year to year. We want to see how your energy is changing and how you're going to be affected by the new year's energy. And your goals change year to year. One year, you may want to grow your business 10%. The next year, you may say, I want to double my income. Let's see if we can make that happen. Then the next year you say, I'm done trying to force a career. Let's get a relationship. Like, things change over time. And so as your goals change, we also need to adjust the Feng Shui accordingly too.
Yeah.
Isn't that great?
It is great. I mean, it sounds a lot nicer than a corporate job.
I did really, really well in corporate environment. I have to say, one of my big takeaways from corporate environment was that I was on a performance track that was really beneficial to them. And there just came a point in my life when I realized very quickly that the things that I was curious about, the energy healing, the tarot cards, the Feng Shui, those kinds of things were being pushed aside because I was on that performance track. And I really had to close the door to corporate world.
And give it space, give that space.
I really had to take up more space in Feng Shui. It's gratifying.
So you just mentioned that people you look at how the year looks for people at the turn of the year, the Chinese New Year. So do you do like sort of forecasts, or how?
Yeah, we can pretty reasonably predict in a physical space what we can expect to happen based on a person's energy and their orientation in the space. So we can say, this sector of the home this year is going to be visited by some unfavorable energy or some challenging energy based on you as a person. And so we may want to move your office from this room to a different room in the house if we can, or shift things around a little bit just so that we can avoid obstacles before they arrive.
So sorry to interrupt, but does that mean that every year you're going to swap around your rooms in your house?
Some people do.
Yes.
Some people do. Right now I have a room in my home that is completely unused. It's a guest room, and it's being visited by some really challenging energy, and it's not being used. My husband used it as an office last year, and I looked at the energy coming down the pipeline, and I was like, okay, we're going to move you to a different area. And it's been an interesting experience because he's kind of on board with whatever I say.
Whatever makes you happy, dear.
Whatever makes you happy. But at the same time, when you realize that there's no interruption in your career path and there's no catastrophic financial unexpected experience, then year to year you may be more willing to do that. Some people don't care. Some people go, well, this is my office and this is my bedroom and this is where it's going to be. Okay, that's fine. Just as long as you know, like, this is the energy that's coming to visit. So if you run into a lawsuit, or if you start arguing with somebody, or if you run into a health issue, then it may become dire and we may need to make a change.
But so this is then possible for people that have enough space to do something like that. What for the people that say, well, look, as you say, this is my house, this is the designated bedroom, this is the designated office space or kitchen or whatever. How do you deal with that if you need to change things around?
Well, usually people who are in a dire situation will do whatever it takes to get out of it. Right. So then there's that free will component. There are a number of systems that can be implemented if someone really has like a 1-bedroom apartment and they're not willing to change their sleeping position. Then it's a little bit of just understanding when something happens, the opportunities to get out of it either may take longer or would just potentially be more challenging to resolve. There can be there's a system called Shwakan Dagwa, which is for internal, and it does connect the energy really beautifully. But it's never a silver bullet. There's never one thing that fixes a problem. So we have to look at there's so many different factors in figuring out what was it that caused an issue. Some people just don't want to change, and that's okay as long as you are aware. Like if you don't want to change, okay, just as long as you're aware when you call me 6 months later and say, I know you said to change my bed, but I didn't change my bed, and now I've got this situation, and what do I do? Then we're having another conversation like, well, now it's time to change your bed.
So it's never really too late. It's just, whenever you are ready.
Right. Sort of like you can lead a horse to water, but you cannot make them drink. Yeah. So I can tell you that you need to not renovate in a particular sector of your home. And then when you do it and something disastrous happens, it's already done. You already started the renovation. So how do we fix it? Then we work together on finding a solution. If the house is on fire, you got to put the fire out. Like you're not going to stand there and go, well, what's the theory on how to fix that? No, just put the fire out. And then we'll work on making the remediation better after the fire is out. There's only so much you can do. And that just makes sense, right? Some of it is just common sense. So most of what we're doing on an annual update is preparing to take action to prevent things if you can. Whenever possible.
Yeah. So, and you also speak about this and your work publicly?
I do. At the end of September, I will be part of a wonderful event called Lead and Empower Her She Talks, which is TED Talk style in San Antonio. So I'll be doing that, which I believe is going international. So that is going to be traveling, I think, Iceland and Canada next year, potentially, and Australia. Actually, I hear that may be in the works.
That's not far away from where I am. That's cool.
That would be awesome. You could pop over. You could meet each other. That would be amazing. So I'll be doing that event at the end of September. I have a special workshop in November on 4 pillars of destiny. We'll be talking about a person's individual Chinese astrology chart. So you can understand a little bit about yourself, which is a really wonderful component to Feng Shui that I love talking about. And then you start to get into Chinese New Year. Chinese New Year is February, the beginning of February every year. I work on the solar calendar, so it's very definitive. It's usually within 1 or 2 days every year. And so around January, after Christmas is over and after we get through the Gregorian New Year, everyone starts to think about the next Chinese year.
What is the next one?
We're currently in the year of the pig.
I know the pig, yes.
The next one is the year of the rat, and it's a metal rat. So we're in an earth pig year. And we're going to be going into a metal rat year. Interestingly enough, this year is known as the grave of fire element. In Feng Shui, there are 5 elements. Water, wood, fire, earth, and metal. And so the current year we're in is sort of the grave of fire. It's dying out completely. Fire element is related to optimism and joy and hope. And so if we start to see that people are getting a little depressed and the economy is starting to take a downturn, fire element is about optimism, which drives the stock market. So if we start to see these things start to take a slide, it's because the fire element is dying. And so in the next few years, there will be no fire element. So people who have fire element in their chart are going to become more desirable because it's a warmth and a brightness that people are going to be really attracted to. And that is one of the reasons I'm doing this presentation in November, so people can understand their charts, see what's coming in the year, so they can know how to behave accordingly. What kind of health issues may come up, so they can plan and make sure they're taking care of themselves.
Your life sounds exciting. Yes,
so exciting.
I do have another question though, because
you can ask as many questions as you want.
I live in New Zealand, which is down under, and most of the Feng Shui magazines and books that you read, they talk about directions, and I remember in the beginning I always thought, do I have to change them around because I'm on the southern hemisphere? So I know that there will be women watching that are from Australia, New Zealand, South America. They're in the southern hemisphere. How do you have to read those directions? Do you have to change them around or not?
In my practice, I don't. East is still east.
Yeah.
It's always just this where east is.
Yeah.
So in my practice, I do not. My experience is that is a man-made concept. That is not about the laws of nature.
Okay. Yeah.
So I would not recommend that. It's because really then what you would have is you would have 8 mansions for the northern hemisphere and 8 mansions for the southern hemisphere, and that's not real.
Well, yeah, because it's like when you're living on the northern hemisphere, if you're facing south, it's towards where the sun is, where it's warm, and then when you get to the southern hemisphere, when you face south, it's actually where Antarctica is, where it's cold,
Right.
So yeah, so that kind of, but
that system is not about the seasons. That system is about the stars in the sky.
Yes. So you just keep to the normal directions. That is cool. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a great question. It's a hot topic amongst Feng Shui practitioners.
Is it? Yeah.
I have certainty that someone is going to be listening to this and go, she's wrong. This is not real. Like, that's not how I do this.
Yeah.
And everybody is entitled to their own practice, right? And their own experience. And I say more power to you if that's what works for you.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. So there are people that flip it around.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Yes. Just simply because we're all unique and what we bring to the table is different. I've just not find that effective. That's just my own experience.
So for those that are listening that think, well, that sounds really cool, I'd like to make a start. Is it the directions really that you start with? Would you suggest start looking at the way your bed is positioned, or if you want to start step by step, basically?
I think that's the 2 things that I think are easy to start with are your bed position and a desk position. I worked in corporate environment for a really long time, and I was like, I would go to my boss and I would say, I have to sit this direction. If you want me to be productive, you will assign me a desk this way or this way. Like, these are your choices. Because I can't tell you how many times in a corporate environment someone would say, my boss moved my desk and then my production tanked. Well, this is why. Sometimes I just think if we could just fix this one thing, everybody would be so much happier. So I think that is very easy and effective start. I don't think it's one thing. I do think that the bed direction is really helpful in addition to the desk, because when you think about it, you're laying down at night and hopefully you're getting a good night's sleep for anywhere from 6 to 8 hours or more. And that is a long time of being in energy alignment. And so we want the crown of your head to be against a wall that is favorable for you. So I think that is safe, generally safe, easy, and very effective. And in my practice is non-negotiable.
So do you, in your life, do you look at everything?
When you say everything, what do you mean?
Do you look at where your kitchen is in your house? I mean, you get into a house, whether you rent a house or you buy a house. I mean, only when you build a house are you really in charge of how the layout is going to be. Most people will be either renting or buying a house that is already existing. So how do you adapt that to your personal or to your family? I mean, within a family, there are different favorable directions. How do you do that?
Absolutely. Well, we look as much as we can and we correct as much as we can. And we also look at how dire the situation is. If the situation is really dire, then you may not be able to use your stove. I went through this myself. I said to my husband, honey,
only get takeaways.
We have to stop using the stove. He was like, what? Because he cooks. And he was like, what? Tell me more. And so we had to stop using, so we use a temporary stove. We put the stove in a particular direction in the kitchen in a particular area, because at that time in our lives, we were going through something really significant. So when I tell a client, you can't use your stove, it better be it's a big deal, because I know how inconvenient that is to not use your home the way that it's designed to be used.
Yeah.
Saying to a client, you should really not sleep in that room. It better be dire for me to say to that client, you need to get out of your master bedroom and sleep in a different room of the home, to stop the bleeding or to get out of your situation. So yes, we're going to look at as much as we can. We're going to do as much as we can based on the issues at hand. Yeah. There are many clients who we will look at changing as much other stuff beyond the stove, or as much as other stuff that we can beyond moving the bedroom. Because some clients will just have a threshold and go, I'm just not doing that. Okay, well, as long as you know that this is my recommendation. If you choose not to do it, then that's your choice. So I've not in my years ever seen a perfect feng shui home. Okay. Because the energy moves around every year, every month. Yeah. And
for the different members in the family.
And for different members of the family. So you had said members of the family. So maybe what that means is one cooker, one range could work for one member of the family, but not work for another. And so maybe the other member of the family, if they can cook, right, if they're an adult and they can cook for themselves, maybe they use a different temporary stove. Yeah. We're talking about potential extreme situations.
Yeah.
There's a lot that can be done before doing something drastic. And when I say drastic, I mean, in over a decade, I've only told 4 people to move.
Yeah.
So
move house.
Right. Well, sometimes you just can't. That's just like really, you cannot get out of it.
Yeah.
Listen, if you're living next to a highway, it's like living next to a raging river, rapids of energy, and the energy's moving too fast, and you're telling me that you're sick, that your money is challenging, that you can't sleep. I mean, there's not much I can do about the fact that you're literally next to a highway or a large freeway, 6-lane highway. Like just the pollution alone. Yeah. That's not feng shui. Mm-hmm. And you bought the house as a foreclosure, and you wonder why you're not doing well. So it's not something that I undertake lightly to say to somebody to move. In America, that's a real challenge. In other countries, people are like, I'm out of here. You say it's not good. Like, I don't even want to mess around with trying to fix things. Yeah. I'm out of here. So part of what I do as a consultant is I offer new home selection, because a lot of times it's easier to address it before you even move in. Yeah. To make sure that you can get as good of a situation as possible, so you're not running around fixing things later.
Is it even so that there are places in the country or in the world that are better for you, that could potentially be better for you than other places?
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm totally into astrocartography. It's not a field that I practice, but I know that there are people out there that do, that have really found it beneficial. And that's, one other modality. But from a feng shui perspective, there are major cities all over the globe that are known for really good feng shui, like Hong Kong or New York, or just, you can think about big port cities like Sydney and London. If you start to think about these cities, are places that have water, that have natural mountains, that collect the qi in a very specific way. So that is very much based on landform. Yeah. There are some really challenging things about living in a big city like that. But if your goals are to make money on Wall Street, then that might be where you need to be. If that's not your goal, then you might find more benefit living in Aspen, where you can have a different kind of environment to support you based on your goals. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think we can talk for the whole day about the different aspects of feng shui and what could be beneficial. And, I would love for you to be here and check my spaces out. And say,
I would love to. Call me.
One day. Yes, one day. It is interesting. It has interested me. And as I said, I read up about feng shui actually in a time that probably there were challenges in life, and I was trying to find an answer and a solution perhaps. And then when life seems to sort of, tag along a little bit, then it's sort of, I mean, it's always still there. My interest is always still there, but the active practicing is then a little bit lower, and do you see that happen a lot as well, where people go,
I sometimes see people call for feng shui, and then their life starts to get better, and then they kind of forget.
Yeah. Well, I don't really forget. It's not that, I mean, I still remember things, and I still look at things like, would that look, or certain things is like, okay, I want to have this and this and this there, but I don't always check all the directions. I think I go on intuition a lot as well.
Yes.
And but yes, it would be good to revisit that, I think.
It's great to revisit that. I think there are a lot of people who work on intuition, and part of their intuition is this just doesn't feel right.
Mm-hmm.
Something is just off, and try to fix it on their own. And we'll come and go out of it, right? We'll kind of go, oh, well, let me try this and see if it works, and then may get distracted by just life happens.
Yeah.
That's part of why you call a professional. Like, you wouldn't go into, if you had a legal issue, you would not go try to represent yourself. That's why you call a lawyer, because you're an expert to be able to really look at the whole picture and give you appropriate guidance.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that it's helpful to get with somebody who looks at it all the time.
Yeah.
Because they can see different situations and sometimes practical solutions. I'm really not into expensive solutions. Like, if there needs to be a body of water, I'm not telling you to put in a $50,000 pool. I'm not telling you to, take down a wall out of your house. Usually I'm like, let's find another way to do this so that it's more cost effective.
Yeah.
I don't think that Feng Shui has to be complicated or expensive if it's done well.
Yeah. I like that about how you present it. It should be accessible for everybody, and it should
Absolutely.
be doable. It should be doable. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it used to be reserved for emperors and high court officials in China, and the secrets were really well kept, because then you were really talking about the influence of power and controlling the masses. But now we live in a global, worldwide, interconnected, collaborative space.
Yeah.
It's called planet Earth.
Yeah.
It's not realistic that 99% of people are going to be born into like a lucky environment. So having the leverage of good feng shui can help shift your opportunities and your potential just by making some small changes.
Wow.
That's why I think it's so beautiful. Then you're not at effect of your environment. You get to be influencing your environment by the choices you make and the way that you align yourself, and
connected to and part of your environment.
And we're talking about people who are multi-creative, they're tapped into different things. This is one component that can help increase a person's potential for wealth and happiness and sense of well-being, can take it to a whole new level with everything else that they're doing.
That's really why I was so excited when I found you, and I thought we could talk about this. It is I love this. Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure.
So tell me a little bit about the Life Gua and 8 Mansions chart that you have offered as a gift for everybody that's
so I have put together a little 8 Mansions toolkit that is super simple. It's got a nice, easy outline. This system basically says, as I mentioned before, everyone has 4 favorable directions and 4 unfavorable directions based on your year of birth. So I am presenting a very simple chart where you can figure out the year you were born. You can get the number that's assigned to you and your life group. And from that, in the toolkit, you will see your 4 good directions and 4 bad directions. And there's an explanation there with some visuals about how to position your bed and how to put your desk. And I really encourage people to try it.
Yeah.
I like to say, give it 90 days. Try, don't move your bed and then get a bad night's sleep and say, oh, this didn't work. You didn't even give it a chance. Like, give it a chance, give it 90 days and see what happens. Sometimes I will talk to people and only give them this and get feedback from them. Oh my God, I was using my wrong directions for so long. And as soon as I changed my bed and my desk, then this amazing opportunity came, and this is the dream career that I wanted. And oh my God, now I've changed something. Or like, I have another gentleman who I did a presentation at a workshop, and he took the information, and I didn't talk to him for a really long time. He saw me at a networking event and he said, I did what you said for one thing. I was healing from an accident, and I was sitting in a specific direction, like on the couch all day long, trying to heal. And I looked at your chart after a while, and I realized that I was sitting in the wrong way. So then I moved upstairs to a different place, and I hung out there, and I noticed that I started to feel better faster. And it's like, oh, great.
Yeah.
Small things can make a huge impact. Sometimes it comes quick. Sometimes it's a little adjustment. It can happen in a short period of time. but I think 90 days is reasonable.
And sometimes, you know, you can use all the luck you can get, all the help that you can get.
All the help you can get, especially if you've got big dreams. And sometimes I just see people like struggling. They're just coming up against obstacles. They work hard. They're really efforting, putting a lot of effort in. And sometimes just this vibrational alignment can help open that efforting to feel less efforting, feel more free, flowing.
Yeah.
Like things just open magically. Suddenly coincidences are more frequent. Synchronicities feel surprising. Like all of a sudden you're surprised and delighted, like, oh my gosh, that happened. And you may not even attribute it to the fact that you turned your desk 2 months ago. But all of a sudden, a contract that you were working on in your business that you've been doing for 6 months, like it just comes through. Every person's results are different.
Excited. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do these 8 mentions, definitely.
Yes. I would love to hear from people about what works. And if it's complicated, or if somebody doesn't get it, or I always offer a complimentary discovery session. So if someone has questions and they think that they may want to get to know me as a practitioner, we should definitely talk to see what the obstacles are. A lot of times the question that I get with 8 mansions is, well, I'm this way, but my spouse is this way, or my partner is this way. Like, what do I do?
How are we gonna put to bed?
Do we sleep this way? I promise the relationship is unlikely to be over. So there's usually a solution.
Find another spouse.
No, well, I'm not going to say that. If the relationship's really over, it's over. But I'm not saying, people sometimes are 2 different directions and have been together for 20 years. Sometimes opposites attract. Usually there's some fine tuning that we can do at an advanced level. And if someone was at home going, well, but what should I do for myself? My answer is go for the breadwinner. Make sure the breadwinner has lots of support so that you get the security that you need. So you can move forward. And that's all going to be part of the toolkit. You'll see it in the toolkit because we're going pretty quickly today. And so it's nice to have it, you know, in your hot little hands. You can read it over and ask questions.
Cool. Oh, yeah, that sounds exciting, and I'm definitely gonna do it because I feel I'm ready to revisit this whole feng shui part of my life again. When I talk about it, I get interested in it again, and you know, it's like, yes, why did I let it sort of taper off? And because I do like the thought behind it, and you know, connecting with the right energies, I think, is important. Definitely.
Absolutely. And it's super easy now. You don't have to go to the sporting goods store to get a compass. Like almost all of our phones have a compass on it, an app, and we can figure out east. Some people go, where's east? Where in my house is east? I don't know. And well, the sun comes up over here. But for some people, that's really a challenge. And so just use your phone. It'll have an app. It'll tell you where to go. Usually pretty accurate.
Anybody that is in San Antonio in end of September, go see Jillian speak.
I would love that. It would be great to see some friendly faces in the audience.
And then locally, you are going to hold this event in November, right?
Yep.
So that's in Phoenix, Arizona.
It's in Phoenix, Arizona. And what's kind of nice is these are very portable presentations. So if someone is in a different city and says, I want to know about 8 mansions, can you do a more intensive workshop? Yeah, let's do that. Hey, I want to know a little bit more about my own Chinese astrology. Let's have a workshop. I want an annual update talk. Tell us what's going to be happening in the year and, you know, what we should be prepared for. Let's have a talk.
Jillian will fly to you.
I will fly. Have materials and brain will travel.
Cool. Yeah. Oh, sounds really exciting. All the information, for those that are tuning in, all the information on Jillian is here on the page, and you will find the button to click and claim that lovely gift just underneath this video. So just there. Thank you so much, Jillian. I love talking with you about this, and I think it is such a nice another layer that we can add to our beautiful lives and integrate this into our energies and, you know, how everything flows in life. I think it fits well with the multi-passionate mind.
I completely agree, right? The multi-passionate mind is about being in tune with what's important to yourself. And the more support that you have in your environment, the more you can integrate that and really shine. And then you're thriving and you're feeling fulfilled and satisfied and being the very best you that you can be. And that's all we can expect from each other anytime.
Exactly. So thank you so much for being here. Oh, it was a pleasure. It was a pleasure.
And I had such a great time.
And all of you, thank you for joining us in this conversation. I really hope that you got some eye-opening tips from Jillian, and that you will check out this gift and check out your own Feng Shui options in your life and work. Thanks for joining in. Check your inbox tomorrow for more information on the All of You show, and I'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.